the thing that we have that's very unique is we have income and assets on every U.S. consumer in the United States. And so that has been proven to be very valuable in targeting and prospecting, not only just sheer focused on, defining ICP and applying that to a data set, but also, modeling and data analytics and driving customer lookalike models and things like that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Next Mile. I'm your host, Kyle Van Pelt, co-founder at Milemarker. And today I am joined by Matt Reed. Matt's a friend of the show. He also happens to be the CRO at Powerlytics, which is a company I'm sure a lot of you haven't heard of yet because they're just making their splash into wealth. And I can't wait to talk more about it with Matt. And he is also a fellow suffering Phillies fan. As we're recording this, the Phillies have just been ousted from the playoffs and effectively making baseball season over because I don't really care what happens after this. Matt, thanks so much for joining the show, man.
Kyle, great. Thanks for having me. I am a big fan. I gave you the 5 stars you deserved on Spotify and everything else you're broadcasting on. So happy to be here. Excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate the 5 stars. It helps out. So Matt, I've known you for quite some time, but a lot of the people in the audience probably don't know you. I ask everybody the same first question. You're not going to be exempt from it. So I've found through hundreds of conversations on air and off air, everybody has their own unique path to this industry. Some people, it's really traditional. Some people, they didn't even know this was an industry to work in, and they came in through the side door later on. But whether it's a traditional path or untraditional, we found everybody has what they call a money moment. And that's that moment in your life where the light bulb clicks on and you decide, this is it. This is what I want to do. So for you, what was that money moment in your life that led you sitting in the chair you're in right now having this conversation?
Yeah, great question. So I was an advisor out of college. So I kind of always knew I wanted to be an advisor until I realized what that meant and how hard that was. And I was sitting in that seat and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And at that point, connected with a company called Albridge back in the early 2000s. And some of you guys, people on here may know Statement One before there was Albridge. And they were looking for young folks who failed at being an advisor. And, you had one right there. And, ultimately I did love wealth management and went to school for that. And I was passionate about it, but I don't know if starting out 22, being an advisor was the right path for me as far as the trajectory I was looking at as what it would take to get to where I'm going to be on the advisor side. So yeah, I kind of connected at a wealth tech firm, which I didn't even know what the heck that meant. I didn't really know what fintech was. I just knew that I was passionate about, advice in that space and just found myself in a call center at Albridge and made my story and about how I'm serving the wealth management community slightly different than I expected, which is not direct customer contact, but more so serving the folks serving that community. And I've been doing that for over 20 years now. I guess so the answer is your short question with a long answer. I fell into it by failing and then getting into what now is wealth tech. But I kind of always had a vision for soon after I realized I was going to be a professional baseball player that I wanted to be in wealth.
I love it, man. I love it. What a recruiting strategy. Hey, if you failed being an advisor, give us a call. That's hilarious. I'm sure that wasn't explicitly what they said, but.
No, but they certainly, it made it sound great. Like, hey, there was a salary involved. So that was cool. Right. And my Albridge colleagues who are still in the business today, all over the course of different companies, we still stay close. And yeah, we started together. Right. So we have that deep connection. It was all go back to probably the same story I had, like got your 7, couldn't figure it out, and went to go serve that community to serve investors.
Oh, yeah. I love it. All right. So I want to talk about growth. You are CRO. So many of the conversations that we have on this show, it feels like one of the topics that keeps coming up time and time again is organic growth. So lots of the industry is obviously growing through inorganic growth, but the organic growth goal is kind of like the holy grail. And some of the tactics we see for achieving this vary, as you can imagine, from doing lunch and learns or seminars inside of companies all the way up to naming rights on NFL stadiums. But the big problem that nobody really talks about is how to get data around the prospects that you're trying to get to the lunch and learns or you're trying to get in front of. So talk to me about how firms struggle with that and where you guys position yourselves to help with that.
Sure. Yeah. I'll give you a great baseball analogy, or it could be relevant for any sport, but look at the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers traditionally, or especially this year and over the past couple of years, have acquired talent through free agency and other ways of doing it. And so that really could be really successful, right? That could be a recipe for success and spending a lot of money to make more money or grow and have success at the end of a World Series. We've seen that fail though, right? We've seen that, firms spending, firms and or your team spending a lot of money, and that doesn't always mean success, right? There's culture considerations, there's operation sustainability. Those things don't always work just because you wrote the big check. Those things don't always work, right? And so when I look at organic growth, I think of like the A's, right? Back in the day, Moneyball, right? Analytics that drive better decisions, that bring a core group of the right decisions based on the right analytics can be successful. And so that's where I think is like kind of growing out of that minor league system and understanding, what that core talent looks like. That's kind of how I think of organic growth in wealth, in a way where I don't just think of it as take some of the larger RIA aggregators out of the space for a second. These RIAs that are not considered aggregators, the advisor age is aging, right? They're the graying of America. That's happening across, advice as well. And so I look at them and like, are they going to sell their book? Is that the best way of doing it? Or would they prefer to pass this on to someone who they kind of brought up with them and help them kind of grow with them? And so I think where I look at Powerlytics and solving that is we're a recipe, right? We're not there's no silver bullet. We're an organic growth. That is certainly not the case. We certainly have been a proven growth engine for, large financial institutions in banking and credit unions. And now we're moving into wealth. And we think, obviously, from a data perspective, there's just not a lot of great data out there, and specifically across all the U.S. consumers, right? So the thing that we have that's very unique is we have income and assets on every U.S. consumer in the United States. And so that has been proven to be very valuable in targeting and prospecting, not only just sheer focused on, defining ICP and applying that to a data set, but also, modeling and data analytics and driving customer lookalike models and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm answering your question with a roundabout way, but I think, when you say what's the sheer difference in organic or acquisition strategy, I think, obviously to me if I'm looking at it from a PE's perspective or buying a book perspective, we're going to grow the stickier, right? It's sustainable. It's been proven to be built out through a model that within the firm has been proven to be successful versus maybe just an add-on to acquiring another firm.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, that's either one of the reasons why firms choose to be consolidated or aggregated is they believe you have a better organic growth story and that you're all going to grow better and bigger together, or it is what these firms need to do once they acquire the assets. You can't just sit there and keep it exactly how it is. You have to be able to grow the books that are coming into the fold. And so everybody is trying to figure out the organic growth aspects combined with the inorganic. So I think one of the things, if I understand it correctly, that you guys are doing, you mentioned lookalike audiences. I want to talk a little bit more about that, but maybe this is where it is. But you guys are helping firms answer the where and the who of opportunity for wealth management firms and banks and things like that. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it's great. It's a good way of putting it, the where and the who, right? So going back, the reason Powerlytics exists is because we have developed a very unique data set on every U.S. consumer that helps firms grow faster. And that data set specifically is driven by tax data. And so we have leveraged a lot of intellectual property of our founder who worked behind the firewall at the U.S. government years ago, and have identified a way of taking publicly available data and making it actionable and targeted so that you can actually make decisions on it and help you drive better marketing and better marketing outcomes. And so, so that specific, kind of the who and the where, marrying that together, saying, hey, for example, let me show me every Henry, for there's a known Henry, like, high earning, not rich yet, within, my surrounding zip codes. So understanding, say, hey, like based on their asset size, their income, and, maybe their age range, I can fine tune a very specific list in my specific area, say, in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, where I am. Show me everybody that has at least $258,000 in income, but has less than $250,000 or $100,000 in assets, whatever the number you want to choose. And maybe I have a Henry strategy, right? So, those firms that traditionally have struggled to figure out who those are, other than just saying, hey, my existing client, their son or daughter probably is in a realm of accumulation and they don't have a lot of assets, right? So we can prove that out and say, hey, for every US location by zip code over by city, you name it, show me everybody that meets a certain criteria that is important to me. And that could go scale all the way up to the highest level of assets as well. You show me every high net worth investor in my area. And so marrying our really rich data set of income and assets and providing that to a marketing database of, who they are, what their information is, what their email address is, who their contact information is kind of what we're calling TrueWealth platform, which allows advisors to log directly into a platform and run a very targeted list based on certain criteria that is important to them.
That's great. So they're going into TrueWealth and they're creating a search for Henry or, I don't know, business owners or something along these lines. And then they're taking that list and they're putting it in their CRM, they're putting it in marketing automation. Do you guys expand on this a little bit? Are we purely working with you guys to better understand prospects who look like the types of clients I want to work with and then plugging that into other tools that I have and I use and I leverage for organic growth? Or are you guys kind of end to end there?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we're not end to end. The platform TrueWealth is new, but traditionally we also have an API and a data model that has been proven out in the banks and institutions and enterprises. So for the most part, where we fit in is a very important recipe in a larger meal, so to speak, right? So we provide them with very specific data points on either their net new customers or existing customers to help either drive a certain strategy or campaign to say, here's are the right people the most likely to respond or most likely to convert based on a lot of these metrics that we're able to provide them underneath the modeling on, say, the marketing side. So from an enterprise perspective, we've been out there for 10 plus years helping top 10 banks and top 10 asset managers and credit unions solving this and being a part of the recipe. And that was always given to them in like a data set that they would then put into their existing marketing strategies or outbound strategies. But we know that in the advisor space, they may not have the ability to, download an API or all those different things that, other larger firms have. So that's kind of where we brought together and put together a platform called TrueWealth that makes it very easy. The advisor can swipe a credit card, download that data set and put that back into the CRM. For example, I was talking to an advisor earlier last week, some of their younger advisors doing an outbound strategy, campaign strategy. They're doing a couple college planning seminars. And so they invest in TrueWealth to help them drive a more targeted campaign seminar list so that they can then do their outreach in a much more thoughtful way versus just showing everybody in this area that has a child, for example, right? And so it's driving a lot more effectiveness on their, having people come that are actually the right fits for them and both the other way around. So that's kind of how the advisor would do it. We are not a black box. We are not an AI solution. To date, it is very easy to use and it is very clear on what you're getting from a data perspective, right? You are going to see the underlying assets of, broken down into retirement and non-retirement, and also the income of every U.S. consumer in the United States. And so there is no modeling or behind the scene AI. It is sourced through our unique IP that we've developed through bringing together a lot of publicly available data from the government. And so that's kind of where we lean on. So most of it's not a full end-to-end. We work with a lot of partners in the space, both on traditional outbound campaigns, as well as other firms that are focused more targeted on the wealth space and helping advisors grow. We certainly can play a big role in that, but we certainly are a recipe as part of a larger solution.
That's awesome.
This podcast is brought to you by Turncast. We make game-changing content for fintech and financial services companies. Learn more at turncast.com.
Hey, Next Mile listeners, Jessica here from Milemarker. We talk a lot about reaching that next mile in your business journey, but let's be for real for just a sec. If you're an advisor, how much time are you spending wrestling with data instead of actually advising your clients? I've worked firsthand with tons of advisors over the years, helping them achieve real success and breakthrough growth. But I keep seeing the same roadblock everywhere. Brilliant advisors stuck spending hours pulling reports from their different systems, trying to create meaningful client presentations and struggling to get a clear picture of their firm's growth. Does this sound familiar? Here's what I've learned. The advisors who are scaling and growing aren't necessarily smarter. They've just figured out how to get control over their data. That's exactly why I joined Milemarker, because they've built a solution that changes everything for how you manage and grow your firm. At Milemarker, we specialize in 3 game-changing areas for firms like yours: streamlining your data management so all your systems talk to each other, automating those repetitive reporting tasks that eat up your valuable time, and creating seamless advisor and client experiences that actually help you grow your firm. The difference is night and day. Instead of spending your evenings pulling together client reports, imagine having that data automatically organized and presented exactly how you need it. Instead of guessing about your firm's performance, imagine having real-time insights that help you make strategic decisions. If you are ready to stop being held back by your data and start using it to fuel your growth, I'd love to have a conversation with you. We're offering Next Mile listeners a complimentary consultation to explore exactly how we can help you transform your advisory practice. Don't let outdated processes keep you from reaching that next mile in your firm's growth. Visit milemarker.co and mention the Next Mile podcast, and I'll personally make sure to get the insights you need to take control of your data and scale your practice. Because your time should be spent building your business, not buried in spreadsheets.
So I have to imagine, so I'm thinking about some firms that I know they're larger, maybe our industry would call them mid-market, but they serve, call it several different niches. So whether it's, okay, this part of the practice is for dentists, this part of the practice is for surgeons, this part of the practice is for this. And so rather than just a kind of generic marketing message about the firm as a whole, it sounds like you guys are leveraging data, which we love at Milemarker, to be able to say, hey, how can you tailor some of the marketing messaging to this list specifically, which you know are dentists, rather than, hey, I hope dentists come and they find themselves in the messaging that we have right now?
Sure. Yeah, 100%, right? One of the data points, for example, that advisors can search on is gender, right? And so we have a couple advisors that target women, right? Or the female population that they're really focused on driving, that part. They have a niche there and they've done well there. And so, that is a very easy search to execute within seconds on the TrueWealth platform, also layering in assets and income and all that other stuff and based on geolocation, right? But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's amazing when we worked with our larger enterprise firms on, outbound strategies around most likely to convert models or most member lookalike or customer lookalike models, what data pops in the model. And I'm not a data scientist and I just play one on TV, but, essentially, charitable giving generally is something that pops in models that, tend to be beneficial in a lot of these customer conversion models, things like that. So that's all information that's available in the tax return that we make available and are useful in a lot of the data sets. So it's not just, maybe not just assets, maybe not just income, but there's a lot of that niche data in there that could be helpful.
I love it. So broad-based, if I'm a firm who's wants to leverage, they're listening to this and they're like, man, that sounds awesome. Do I have to have somebody who's really running marketing for my firm? Do I need a marketing expert? Or if I'm, a solo firm, maybe a couple of people or whatever, does this work for me too? Talk a little bit about what's required to really be successful with the type of data that you're talking about here, to be precise with your messaging, all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to do it for you. There's going to be work to be done on either end, whether you're as advanced as you can get from a marketing perspective or as novice as you get, you're one person shop and, you're doing your own thing end to end. But the way this is structured as far as a engagement model with advisors or enterprises is that immediately you can be as complex as you want with this data. So if you do have a really mature marketing organization that understands modeling and data science and understands how outbound strategy can work and the recipes of that and where we fall in, we can talk that level all day long. On the other end of the spectrum is if you're Joe Smith advisor who sits in an office and doesn't have a team and answers his own phone calls, schedules his own meetings, and has a really stable business and wants to kind of dabble in a high-end prospecting targeting tool, he or she can go in, swipe a credit card on our website, immediately sign up for a package and have access to TrueWealth within seconds. And so we want to make it as easy as possible. And we do have a lot of FAQs or training videos, but it's funny. I host Coffee with Matt every Thursday, no marketing required here, but every Thursday I have coffee with Matt. And I set it for 30 minutes and, it's only really you need 15, right? Because half the time people are showing up 5 minutes late and then you do a 5-minute intro, you do a 5-minute demo and they're like, yeah, we get it. This is great, right? So we really didn't want to make it complicated. We didn't want to have to have advisors struggle to how to use it. There's been a lot of marketing, provider lists out there and they get a bad name depending on the collateral quality. But I think with the tailwinds that lead gen has in wealth these days, I think there's a lot of providers out there. If you look at, the Kitces map, right? I mean, back in the day, that map you could see that on a screen. Now, also I'm getting older, so maybe I can't see as well, but that was a much smaller map. And that lead gen section is getting larger and larger every day, right? And so if you look back, 20 years ago or 15, that wasn't, even on there, right? It was probably just maybe a Zoom info or something like that would be on there. Yeah. But yeah, today that box is getting larger. So I think with the push for organic growth, I think we're in a good spot to help advisors at just, understanding what they want out of the platform. Do they want a full end-to-end? Do they want a really unique data set that they want then run their own execution from a marketing perspective? That we could fit into that model.
Yeah. So let's double click a little bit though. So you talked about the Kitces map and all the lead gen stuff that's there. So where does Powerlytics fit with like a smart asset or a Finny or a wealth feed or, there's all these things that are popping up there right now. So are you saying, okay, I'm part of the stack with a smart asset? Like you would want to combine us together and put all these things together or whatever? Or like, how would you sort of position yourself next to or alongside a lot of those other things that you see on the map?
Sure. It's a great question. So we lead with data first, right? The reason why we're a company is because of the data uniqueness of our data set. And so the coverage and availability of our data is certainly the most unique part about us, right? Having a financial profile on every US consumer is a very unique story, right? Almost too unique to even be like, yeah, right. I doubt that. But, the nice thing is we've been validated in the large institutions, banking, that is also very regulated, similar to where we are from a wealth perspective. And so we have validation on our data, and now it's taking that to the next level and giving it ability for an advisor to search on it. So where we fall, right? We are not, again, we're not trying to complete the full process for an advisor. We are not trying to be, the beginning end and, the middle. We just fit a very specific use case of if you're looking for better prospecting targeting data to help you be more efficient in your outbound strategy, whatever that looks like, whether that's a one-man shop or a very, very high-end marketing behemoth, we could provide value. And we don't necessarily need to fit. You don't need to use our website. You can use our data. We will give it to you directly. We are very unique and flexible in how we work with you. And so we have the most complex firm that in one of the financial services space using our data, one of the most. And we also have like the most basic, advisor using our platform. So we can fit any complexity of need from both a prospecting targeting tool, which is nice, right? And I think when you look at some others, I think they have a really, really unique solution like Finny and others that led with technology and then kind of started to backfill that with data. And so we kind of started on the other side and are coming more to a tech stack. And so do we ever think we'll be kind of a Finny? Probably not. I think we're going to stand on the core of our solution, which is our data. And then, let that speak for itself. And then listen, like co-opetition's a real thing, right? In this space, right? So, some of the folks that are in that lead gen box use our data behind the scenes. And so I'm not of the mindset where you can only come to Powerlytics to see my data, right? You can come to somewhere else to see Powerlytics data, right? We don't need to be the name on the box, but, we might be, some of the cool stuff inside of it, right? And so I also think, a lot of those folks, I know we've had conversations with some of them and some of them are already customers, but yeah, I think that's, how we have to look at this because I want eyes on our data no matter where they come from. And I believe in it so well, and that's the case. So whether it comes through another partner or a customer or a competitor, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Well said, man. Well said. All right. I want to get outside of the core of the data a little bit, and I want to zoom out to a higher level perspective and ask you to peer into your crystal ball a little bit and talk about what the future looks like when it comes to the industry as a whole. And this could be technology related. It could be outside of technology. Just when you look around the corner, what are some of the things that you see happening in the space that you're excited about and that you think people should be paying attention to?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kyle. I look at it from two angles, one more personally and more, broadly for the industry. Broadly, right? I mean, you look at the great wealth transfer that's coming, that's underway, but also, coming very fast and furious for wealth firms. And so, how I think about that, personally is, certainly, advisors are going to try to, convert assets to the next generation, right? Or continue to retain assets. And so, that's certainly, prevalent in my life today with my parents, at an age, well past retirement. So I think about kind of how that overlays across the rest of the industry. And I think some of the things that, these new generations and how they engage with content around TikTok and other things, obviously what we do today is not going to work for those, in the future. And so, as I look at it from the Powerlytics lens, I look at it from an enterprise lead gen approach of engaging with the next generation, right? And so, we believe at Powerlytics that, data is a key to that. And obviously, as a recipe to that, and how they engage with that next generation to ensure that your assets are retained and continue to grow those relationships with the younger generation, and identifying those as a key part of that. We believe Powerlytics data can help do that. For a lot of the wealth firms out there that are trying to figure out where do they, what's the solution for them in the great wealth transfer to retain assets and continue to grow. And that's a big part, I think, that I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out in the industry.
Yeah, well stated, man. Well stated. All right, so we are going to move into the final segment of the show, which is what we call the Milemarker Minutes, a series of lightning round questions aimed to be a little more lighthearted and fun. So you ready for the Milemarker Minute?
I love it. Let's go.
All right. I know you just got back from a trip, but if you could travel anywhere in the world that you've never been to before, where would you go?
Spain.
Okay, I love it. All right. Of the 4 major Philadelphia sports teams, so I am including the Sixers, the Flyers, the Eagles, and the Phillies. Sorry, Union, and I know there's some other great organizations out there. Out of the 4 majors, you have to get rid of one of them forever. Which one are you getting rid of?
Oh, people are hating for this. Flyers.
Okay. Favorite Philly of all time?
That's a good question. I always break mine up into sports because I don't want to be too overhead, but I will say Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, great one. I know you went to Penn State. Have you ever attended a whiteout before?
Yes.
Is it as advertised? Is it overrated or underrated or properly rated?
It is properly rated. It's as loud and chaotic as it looks.
That sounds awesome.
And if you're going to go to one, do it in the fall, not the winter.
Oh,
it's too cold.
Are you a mountains person or a beach person?
Beach.
What's the best flavor of ice cream?
I'm a frozen custard vanilla with rainbow sprinkles. That's my jam.
Okay. I love it. All right. What is the best book you've read or listened to in the past year?
One book I reread all the time, almost. I love Malcolm Gladwell. I'm a huge fan. Blink is one of my favorites. I'm a big fan of that.
Okay. All right. What's the best road trip you've ever been on?
Are there good road trips? I guess that's saying from a dad perspective. So I'm hopeful. The plan is to take my kids to Great Canyon. We're going to do a road trip next year, I think. My wife, I don't know if she knows about this. She's probably saying no in the background. But no, when I was little, we did a family road trip in the old station wagon that half of it faces the other way. We drove to Finger Lakes and Canada with my parents. And it is memorable. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's memorable. I don't know. It was like a combination of all my siblings in one car and fighting and all the other fun stuff, but it's memorable.
That sticks, man. I love it. There's an alternate universe. And in this alternate universe, you don't have the same career that you have right now. So in that alternate universe, what career does Matt Reed have?
Yeah, I run a bed and breakfast.
Run a bed and breakfast. Where? You have an idea of where you'd want it to be?
I would buy like an old farm house, renovate it, and make it into like up on like the Delaware River north of where I am. Or, I mean, there's plenty of amazing areas, but I'm being almost realistic here because this is like a pipe dream. It's all in the Reed family. Yeah. But yeah, I love that.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, you made it through the Milemarker Minute. Great job. I loved it. You blitzed through that thing. But before we sign off, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to plug Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which I know is a really, really meaningful thing for you and something you're deeply involved in. So tell us a little bit about that and why you're passionate about it.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. It is something close to my heart. I am a patient. I do have, I am part of the Crohn's colitis family. I have met a lot of great people in that organization. They do some amazing stuff. I've been in bad shape over the course of time with my disease, and not many people know about how tough that was. And the foundation has done nothing but provide an outlet and funding for hopefully, a cure at some point. So, yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm an active participant in the foundation. I'm on the committee. We just had our golf outing in August. We raised like over $200,000. It's actually cricket for any golf fans. If you ever want to play some good golf, we signed a 3-year lease, so we'll be doing that year over year. So yeah, I am indebted to the foundation for what they've helped me and where I am today from a health perspective. And there's a great bunch of people, and I like to give back. They've given me more than I could give them.
Cheers, man. I hope you guys find a cure, and thanks for giving back in the work that you're doing. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, that has been another episode of Next Mile. Matt, thank you so much for all the insights you dropped about how to use better prospecting data to achieve what so many people I talk to on this podcast are trying to figure out how to achieve: organic growth. It's not going to happen on accident. You're going to get some via referrals and things like that. But if you really want to supercharge your organic growth engine, you got to be smarter about the lists and the prospect data that you're using to power what you're doing from an organic growth perspective and the messaging that you do that with. So, Matt, I appreciate you bringing that up and talking about it. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. Always fun to talk about sports and everything else as well. So thanks so much for everything that you shared and for taking time out to talk with us today.
Hey, thanks again, Kyle. You're the best. Always willing to chat.
Absolutely, man. Okay, everybody, please make sure you click follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you haven't, like Matt, if you haven't left us a 5-star review so that other people can find conversations like this that they've never found before, we'd really appreciate it. But until the next episode, enjoy every mile.